Hello,
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Where are you connecting from?
I'm connecting from Bangladesh.
From Bangladesh. Are you Hindu, Christian? I don't
Culturally
know.
Hindu, yes.
Cultural Hindu.
Yes.
Okay, and theologically,
Theologically, no theology.
you don't believe. Are you like an agnostic? What are you?
I believe in science, basically.
What does that mean? You believe in scientism as a religion?
No, no, science. No Scientology, nothing like that. I just
Okay.
believe in observations, doing experiments,
Mm-hmm.
building hypotheses, and doing again experiments and
Okay.
moving this way.
So, are you actually a scientist, or you just believe in science?
No, I believe in science.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, what's on your mind? What is it you want to discuss with us?
So I was wondering, have you guys looked into DMT research and DMT stuff? Are you guys into science?
Yeah, but what is it you want to ask us about?
No, I was wondering if you guys looked into it.
I don't. I personally haven't into DNT. What is that?
So DMT is like a compound, and we are hypothesizing, like science is hypothesizing that maybe that is kind of what gives you the experience, the subjective experiences, and also the dreams and everything. So I believe personally is that maybe the people who reveal the books or whatever, maybe somehow the DMT levels in their brain shot up, and then they started prophesizing and writing stuff. So basically, I don't believe in any god or anything, no afterlife, nothing. The earth, this life is all we have right now.
What if it wasn't all we have? Then what?
I mean, I will first believe in what there is right now, right? Instead of just
No, but I'm
doing
asking,
assumptions.
look, whether you believe in God or not, one day we all are certainly going to die.
Yes,
Now,
definitely.
the question to you is that if this was the world that we live in and that
Yes.
was the end of it, yeah,
Hmm.
then you and me, we die one day and that's the end, the end
Yes.
for us.
Yep.
However, if that wasn't the case, and there is an afterlife, and there is heaven and hell, and there is God, and there is a day of judgment, then you are in a worse position than me, is it not?
Not necessarily, because let me explain it to you why. Because you say God created us, right?
Then I'm asking about the afterlife.
No, no. I'm coming to it. I'm saying
Yeah.
if God created us and put us through all of this, through suffering, through happiness, through joy, sorrow, everything, and then at the end, why is He going to judge His own creation again? Then what is the point of creating in the first place?
Because when God created you, He mentioned what was your purpose.
What was my purpose?
Exactly. So this is comes from His revelation. He tells you what your purpose in life is. He
Which
tells you what are your do's and the don'ts. Okay. And the whole thing comes under obedience to God Almighty. And then there is the opposite of that, which is the disobedience. That is where you become a sinner. So if God has told you to do, for example, um, I don't know, fast in the month of Ramadan, and you deliberately do not fast without any legitimate reason, then you are sinning. You're disobeying God. Do you understand? So God has not just sent you in the world just like that, without any guidance. He has given you guidance. And if you follow that guidance, it'll be best for you. If you disobey the guidance, then that will be your detriment. And that is, you will be the one accountable for what happens to you in the afterlife as a consequence.
I mean, I don't get this point. Like, what is the purpose? I think
Yeah, the purpose. So Allah says in the Quran, your purpose is basically the obedience to God, to worship Him. Okay.
then what was the point of creating us? So that it's kind of
God
sounds
doesn't need a
to me like
God
a
doesn't need
human
a
being,
reason to
Sorry,
create you
because
because He's a creator. For
it kind of
example,
sounds.
if you wanted to, let's say you're a scientist and you wanted to invent something,
Yes.
do you need somebody to tell you to invent something?
No, I will invent based on my need. In
Not
innovation or
necessarily.
invention is driven by
No,
need.
not necessarily. Maybe somebody else's need.
Does
You know,
God has a need to quench his ego?
why would it be his ego if that was his ability to create?
No, I'm
Just
saying
like just like if you were a scientist and you had the ability to invent, would that be your ego?
no, that is the need. The need
No,
Why,
no,
of
what you're
no.
what is
Wait,
the
doing,
wait.
Muris,
need?
is
Okay,
you're
so let,
jumping.
let me ask you this. The people who invent certain things, do they need to use it? No, they don't. For example, there are people like Oppenheimer who invented atom bomb. Yeah. Did he
But that is
himself
for the use
use
of the
the atom
society,
bomb?
though. That
No, he
is the
did
use
not.
of this.
He used
That
it
is,
for somebody else to
yes,
use it.
definitely. But then
Okay?
God created us for whom?
No, God doesn't need a reason for creating anyone. You are already here, so you have no option other than to, deal with it. For example, have you ever asked your parents, why did you give birth to me?
No, I mean, it was an act, according to science, is called reproduction.
I know.
So,
I'm not asking you how you were reproduced.
Your
I'm
parents
asking
don't
you,
need you in
did you
any way,
have,
shape, or form,
yeah,
but why
did
do
you
they
ask
have
your
you?
parents, why did you bring me to this world? Did you ask that question?
I mean, they always, like, there's many reasons. One of the reasons
I
was
didn't ask
something
you the
like,
reason. I'm asking you, did you ask the question, why did you give birth to me?
no, why?
Exactly. You know why you can't ask that question?
No, I can ask a question
No,
like this.
hear me out first. You know why you can't ask that question?
To whom?
Because
My
you're already
parents?
here.
To my
Your
parents?
question would be irrelevant
Why?
because when you were not even in this world, yes, and then you came to this world, you had no option. You had no option. So you can't ask the question now that you're here to your parents. That will be a silly question to ask your parents. They'll probably slap you one.
No,
How
they
dare
don't
you ask
slap
me
me.
this?
They are
How
not
dare
this
you ask me this question?
intolerant like
You
God.
had
They
no
are not
option, my
intolerant
friend.
like God
You're
that they will
here.
create something
Just
and
like
then
you had no option in which family you're born, or on which day you were born, or even which day you will die. You have no option in none of this.
well,
So let's deal
scientific.
with what you have instead of you questioning God as to why I'm here. You
No,
have to deal with
then the
what
whole purpose is
the question is
defeated.
this.
We as
You have
human
to look
beings
at
use
what
our
is
brain.
possible rather
We as
than what
human
is
beings,
impossible.
sorry. Let me talk, please. We as
Yeah, God.
human beings have a brain to reason, to find logic. If we stop questioning something like God or something, then the whole point is defeated, right?
No, I'll tell you
No.
why not. Because the thing is, your question is irrelevant. Do you understand?
Irrelevant. Why?
What is irrelevant? Because the thing is, you have no option. Even if you, for example, are 20 years old or 40 years old, you have already lived that life. Now asking that question won't put you back in the womb. Do you
I
understand?
mean, that's not my purpose of asking the question.
Okay, so what is the purpose of asking your parents, why did you give birth to me?
I mean, it's just a common, like a human discussion.
Yeah, what would you achieve by that?
I will know, like, my, like, I mean, just it's just common discussion, small talk, you can say.
That's why I'm saying let's deal with the big talk and forget the irrelevant small
The big
talks.
talk actually is to live together as human beings instead of just fighting based on
That is
some
part of
book that
Islam,
is written 1,000 years old back.
My brother, that is part of the revelation. Allah says in the Quran that we have created you, okay, we have created you from two souls and then into tribes and nations, so you know one another.
And technically speaking, I
So
existed
Maya, my
forever.
question you haven't still answered.
What?
What if the afterlife was true? What have you prepared for it?
I mean, sure. I mean, if afterlife is true, then what? I
Then
mean,
what
I will
happens to
deal with
you?
something which I have, which is there
What
for
the
me right
question is,
now.
what would you do if the afterlife is true? What would you do?
I don't know. I mean, I will see after during afterlife. Right now, I just
But it'll
don't
be
need
too
to care
late.
about that.
It's basically, you know what you're saying? Basically, you're saying like, okay, the exams are imminent. Okay, I will not deal with the exams, the studying for the exam. I will deal with it after the papers are seen by me and completed by me. I will take care of it then. Is that
No, not
is
really,
that something
because
which is rational
not
and
really,
and something intelligent person would do?
you are
No, it wouldn't.
assuming that there is an exam.
You would
You are
prepare for the
assuming based on a
exams.
book.
Maya,
You
you
are
have to listen.
assuming
Let
based
me
on a
finish.
book that there is an
You will have to
exam.
prepare for the exams in advance, not on the day of the exam.
I'm saying you are assuming that there is an exam.
No, we're
I
not
mean, if,
assuming
for
anything.
example,
The
in this
difference in
life,
our
let's say
position,
I'm in university, if I have an exam, then I will of course study for it. But then
buddy,
I
you're
know that
alive.
there's no
That's your proof
exam.
enough. You're alive. That's your proof enough. Okay, let me ask you something just real quick. How old are you, dude?
I'm 25.
Great. Do you do any drugs?
No.
Then why are you a fan of DMT?
DMT, it's in your brain. What do you mean?
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that it's in your brain. I'm well
Yeah,
aware.
so
Okay, so
as
think that?
human beings, instead of knowing something which we haven't seen or anything, we should strive to learn about ourselves first.
Okay, great. So, who can teach you about yourself?
I mean, science is teaching every day. New things are coming up.
And can science be wrong?
Science can be wrong, but then science is authentic in the sense of the methodologies that they use. They just
If
don't
it's
assume
authentic, it
something
cannot be
and then
wrong.
out of the blue they just.
Yeah, dude. Again, see, this is the thing, dude. What you do is you've latched onto a worldview without actually looking at something holistically. So you've latched onto science, which is fine. Now we have to unlatch you and open your mind to the possibility that information can come from elsewhere. And I have to get out of your head the presupposition that you have that these prophets were in some way, shape, or form consuming DMT in some way, shape, or form, or suffering
No, I didn't say they consume DMT. You can consume DMT also. That is another way, which is
Okay.
ayahuasca. Let's say in Mexicans, they do like ancient shamans and stuff like that.
Okay,
But then
great.
there is
So
DMT in your brain already.
I get it. So are you saying that they're suffering from too much DMT in their brain?
No, what I said as before is that maybe somehow their DMT levels in their brain spiked up. For example, I can tell you an experiment that happened was in rats.
Okay.
What scientists were trying to see is like the effect of DMT and stuff like that. What happened was they intentionally like induced a state of heart attack
Okay.
in the rats, and then they saw the level of DMT in their brains shot up 400 times. Imagine.
Okay, great. So what are you trying to say, that these people that walk the earth that claim that they were receiving revelation intentionally induced heart attacks and they had a shot up of DMT?
No. See, you don't understand how science works or something like that. It is
You're
just one of
definitely
the
right.
experiments.
Please teach me.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
they had heart
I
attack or
think
something. I'm saying somehow, some
Somehow.
level, yes, somehow
Okay.
there was a spike in the DMT levels.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's give you the benefit of the doubt, right? Let's say there was a spike in their DMT levels. Would there be any side effects to the spikes in their DMT levels?
Side effects, as in, yeah, they gave the Quran or something like that. That's the side effect.
That's not a side effect, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a side effect. I'm talking about a physiological side effect, particularly in their bodies. Something that somebody could visibly see, such as
I
like
don't know.
either
I mean,
agitation, pupil dilations, dizziness, increased heart rate. These are all side effects of increased DMT, right?
no, not really.
What do you mean? No, not really, dude. If
I'm
you
talking
have
about
increased,
endogenous DMT. I'm talking about endogenous DMT, the DMT which is in your brain, not the DMT that you take from outside.
I understand what you're talking about. Okay, let me give you a parallel, dude. Have you ever been under the impacts of adrenaline within your own body?
Of course, yes.
Okay, is there a regulator for adrenaline in your body?
What do you mean regulator?
Is there something that regulates the adrenaline in your body?
Yes, we have our different kinds of exocrine glands like pituitary or
Fantastic.
adrenal cortex, adrenal medulla, and stuff like that.
When this regulator says, hey, there's a crisis and I'm going to increase the amount of adrenaline, do you
Yes.
have any side effects from that increased adrenaline?
Depends what you mean by side effects. You can call it effects in the sense that there is.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Listen,
Sorry to
to me.
interrupt.
Sorry, brother Muris, I don't want to go into this DMT thing. It's just unnecessary. I want to ask him about the afterlife. By the way, Maya, did you come as Krishna last time?
No, not really. This is my first time.
Yes, you did.
Krishna? What do you mean Krishna?
Your title, your name.
No, this is my first time.
Okay. Are you a Hindu?
Culturally Hindu.
Okay. So what are your understanding of the Vedas?
It's just books.
Just books?
Yeah.
Does it have any anything about God in there?
I mean, I think there is something called Nasadiya Suktam. Do you know about that?
Yeah, it's a atheistic view.
Yeah.
Oh no,
It says
sorry,
even-
that is about the beginning of the
yeah.
universe, which is agnostic actually.
It says
Man-
maybe
I think
God
Brother
knows.
Mansur will
Maybe
tell
at
you
the
that.
end, it says maybe God knows, and at the end, maybe God doesn't even know.
Yeah. So do you believe God knows or God doesn't know?
I mean, according to what I have right now with me, I would say there is no God.
So you're an atheist? Would you consider yourself an atheist?
Sure, you can say that.
No, I'm not saying I want to say. I want to say what you think.
Yeah, atheist. Yeah.
You're an atheist. So you don't believe in the existence of God at all.
No.
Okay. So are all these Hindus who believe in God, are they all wrong?
I mean, if I have
What
to
happened?
compare between Hindus or Muslims and Christians,
No. I'm
all
asking
I
you.
see.
I'm asking you about the Hindus. Are the Hindus who believe in God, are they all wrong?
But there is not such dogma in them, though.
What
The
do you mean?
dogma that I see in you guys, it's not there
Majority.
in
Wait,
them.
wait. Why you always switching to Muslims? Is it because you are a closet Hindu?
No, I'm saying,
So once again,
according
please
to
answer the
dogma,
question I'm asking you instead of doing the whataboutery. Are the Hindus who believe in God, like Krishna, like Vishnu, Shiva,
yeah, technically
and
they are
goddess,
wrong.
are they wrong
Yeah,
according to
technically
an
they are
atheist
wrong.
like you?
According to that, it's wrong. Yeah.
So according to you, they're all wrong, yeah? All the
Yeah,
Hindus
sure.
who believe in God.
Yeah.
Okay. So what when you consider, do you consider give any value to the Vedas at all?
I mean, there is a lot of philosophy, like the Upanishads, they have philosophy, so it's not really pointless. But then I would say that
Give me
they
some
are still
positive
wrong.
philosophy from the Upanishads.
Sorry?
Give me something of value from the Upanishads which you think is valuable.
I mean, I don't really read the Upanishads or anything, but
Why are
then,
you saying it's got philosophy in there if you haven't even read it?
I mean, everything has a philosophy, right?
No, not everything.
What do you mean? Philosophy is itself like any ideas is like philosophy.
So you haven't read the Upanishads, right?
No.
Have you read the Vedas?
No.
Have you read any Hindu scripture?
Bro, this guy hasn't even read scientific books. That's what I was trying to explain to him, is he believes in people having excess episodes of DMT and they came out with revelation. So I got to bring him back over to having the sources that these folks, the prophets alayhim salam, are getting revelation is from God, not from some crazy side effect of DMT.
And by the way, he said it's a hypothesis. Do you know what is a hypothesis, Maya, in the field of science?
Can I come into this? I mean, I find it quite interesting. Just before I was joining, I heard about this DMT. So if we give you, Maya, yourself, if we give you DMT, what do you think if you give you enough doses of DMT, okay, so it's not like endogenous DMT, as much as you need, you should be able to produce books like the Quran, right? If someone else can do in the past without,
that's like a side effect, sure, yeah, maybe something better, maybe something better, maybe let's say.
Something better. So do you even know what the Quran is?
Even better than the Vedas, maybe,
Yeah. So about the Quran, let's focus on the Quran. Do you know what the Quran is and what it contains to come up with a book like that?
I just need to see the ideas in action, that's all. So I see things like terrorism and stuff like that, so it's pointless.
So I see, for example, you are actually not someone very sincere and it's pointless to speak to you. Come on, man. What we're saying is you forget the actions of individuals, you look at the book itself. Does the book say you commit terrorism? Of course it doesn't. So it's pointless bringing this up. I mean, this is simple in a very silly. Hang on. Slowly. This is. Excuse me, Maya. Listen to me, please. It's really childish to bring something like this in a discussion where you're trying to understand each other's position and the veracity of these positions. So when you have read the Quran, you've realized that the Quran does not in any way, shape or form, encourage this kind of actions. It's the opposite. I mean, 200 years ago, within the east and the west of this globe, there was no one, historians or otherwise, they were saying Islam is a terrorizing or terrorist religion. No one. It's a modern recent.
They were warlords. The Arabs became warlords.
You're not listening, Maya. You're not listening. What I'm saying, let me finish my point and I'll come back to you to listen to what you have to say. So these discussions about the image of Islam is a modern portrayal due to modern politics. They're finding to deal with Islam intellectually very difficult. The only way to do that is you're interrupting as I'm speaking. Maya, you are interrupting while I'm speaking.
Why do you think
you're interrupting? You are interrupting. Look, I can mute you, but I don't want to. You're interrupting while I'm speaking. I have not even finished. So at least have the mannerisms and the etiquettes to let me finish. And as I said, I will hear what you have to say. So I'm not going to question your family's upbringing, how they fail to bring you to understand to a point where how you interact with other people and let the other people speak. Forget all of that. I will take you what you are in your education and your upbringing, but This is what you should be learning, to interact with people, let people say what they have to say, and then we will say what you have to say. So as I was saying, to complete my statements, it's a modern phenomena when the world is seeing that they're failing to combat and deal with Islam intellectually. The only way to do that is misrepresent it, malign it, misrepresent it, and say Islam is all that, so that people who are embracing Islam intellectually, people are embracing Islam by the crowds, they can be stopped. Because the more and more people embrace Islam in different levels of society, what's going to happen is they will have impact in the society. They will say no to pornography, no to alcoholism, no to gambling, no to all of these things which are bread and butter of every capitalistic society and the thriving of that society. They don't like it. They don't like the whole alcohol industry, the smoking industry, and so on to be out of business, because this is how they thrive, their economies, and so on and so forth. This is how DMT are talking about. We are talking about how they are drugging the people's mind to be like sheep. So when Islam comes to people in the West or in the East, it is going to make a revolution. It's going to change societies. They don't like that. And that's why they are misrepresenting and trying to malign Islam with all these things which, 200 years ago, people even think about it. The example I can give you, which you probably have said it already. Oh, the Prophet ﷺ married someone young. Look at this. You'll find not even the Christians for thousands of years. 1,000 years, in 1,000 years and 400 history of Islam, they didn't even talk about anything like that at all, because it was not considered to be an argument in Islam. But now we're hearing this in modern times, because modern times are bringing all these things, these weak, feeble arguments against Islam, but they're failing. So Maya, you are an atheist. As an atheist, if we now go back to your worldview, you're saying this whole world is simply there and it doesn't require an explanation. This is where the problem is. If there is a world,
I'm not saying it doesn't need explanation. I say we should seek
so
explanation.
now may I now hear, Maya, from you an explanation of why the world exists and whether there's a creator behind this world or not. So I want to see your intellectual, your rational reasons and arguments of your position, and how the world which is rational, and you are an atheist. I want to see how you reconcile these two contradictory realities. Go ahead.
So constant is the energy of the universe or the multiverses. Like if there are many universes, let's say, right? So that energy is constant as it was before. There is no creation per se, but things out of randomness started popping out.
Really? Okay, let's deal with what you've said so far. So energies are constant. No, I've heard what you said. Energies are constants here in multiverse. I mean, I'm sure you know we're talking about constant energies where in a closed system,
yes,
you cannot, right? But you have no idea what the multiverses are. These are hypothetical situations, scenarios where the people are postulating through mathematics and so on, models. You have no idea.
Sure. Yes,
Maya, can I finish? Thank you. You have no idea the realities of this world beyond our world, because you're not external to this world. Your understanding of the outside will be limited by your realities of this world. So you have no clue what kind of laws operate outside, what the reality is outside. So you cannot postulate the multiverses, these are, and what they have energies or not. So you have no clue, because you cannot investigate them. You cannot observe them. You cannot do any experiments on them. It's beyond your reality and your paradigm. Science will fail to do that. They can only bring up mathematical models to account for what these universe of ours can be explained by other possible explanations elsewhere. So that's the problem number one. Secondly, you're talking about random cases, somehow things came. Look, here's the problem. When we see in our world, which things are very, very precise in terms of physical laws and constants, and you're saying things happen randomly, here is the problem. Even if you go to the Big Bang, to this point of inflation or around that point, these laws themselves, these are abstract realities, concepts which are abstract. The laws themselves physically don't exist. They don't have a weight that you can put there. These are like when I write equation on a piece of paper, a law of thermodynamics, whatever, this is all that is. it doesn't have a physical reality. Now, to say these laws then somehow manifested actions into reality, and in reality we have concrete stuff, we have substance, we have energy. Remember, laws are not energy. These are abstract concepts. So how do they govern energy, and how do they transform energies into different forms? As we turn today, you and me are a different form to, for example, a piece of wood, which is a pencil. Different forms, how things operate. But the law is apparently by random, without any kind of organizer, with any kind of designer, any kind of intelligent creator. You're saying it just happens. I want to know, if you have an equation on a piece of paper, if I write an equation on a piece of paper, how does that equation make things in reality when itself is abstract? How do you account for the physical reality from an abstract laws that you say existed by randomness? I would like to hear something of substance, because atheists, we are getting away quite easily. Now is your chance to actually defend yourself and say, yes, this is how we can explain it. Go ahead, Maya.
The equations are not just equations, like it's just not like it's just some kind of language. It's like it represents something. It represents, along with that equation comes a whole lot of background theory, years and years of progress of science and everything. It's not perfect, I must admit, it's not perfect, but it's still something. And that equation, or the people who are doing that equation, they are not quarreling or arguing with each other that they are the only right people and the other side is wrong. There's collaboration going on, there is collective progress going on, and I believe in this spirit, which is of collective good for the human society. And that's why atheism is better in my sense. That's why. Yeah.
Okay, Maya, so you failed to address the question altogether. Either you misunderstood what I'm saying, or it was my failure.
I'm not a scientist, though. How can I explain more? I'm not a scientist.
Maya, listen, without interrupting, okay? And if you're not finished, you can just say I'm not finished. I will let you speak, okay? But I thought you paused, and so I can speak. So what I'm saying, you failed to understand what I was saying, or I failed to communicate to you what I was expressing. Okay, it could be either or. Okay, I need to be humble, and I'm not an arrogant person. I wish I'm not. Okay, let me just pray for my Muslim brothers and sisters that God makes us humble all the time, so that we humble to the truth, wherever the truth is. So what I was saying, in the model that atheists have about this world, the explanation that I'm seeking from you is this manifestation of the energy conversion into matter and energy, and all these things that we see today, from the big expansion to the current form. This happened because of laws, physical constants that's operating within our universe. I am saying these physical constants don't have a brain, because they're not physical. They don't exist. They're abstract laws that we have discovered operating. That's all. So if I were to mention these laws on a piece of paper, that's all there is. They do not have a mind of their own. They do not have consciousness. They do not have a will or a volition. They do not have thoughts. Nothing. It's just some abstract concepts of a law, equations that we have discovered. So when you have something like that, which doesn't have a brain or neurons, doesn't have thought processes, intellect, doesn't have rationality, doesn't have self-awareness of its own existence, if that thing doesn't even know it exists, that it can do anything, how can that law then transform things into this reality as it is, of any transformation? Do you see my point? That law that we now understand cannot do anything by itself as an agent. So how does this law make things into action unless there is another agency that put this law to make this happen? You see, a remote by itself, when I press a remote, here's an example. Yeah, a remote. If I press it as an agent, then something happens from this remote, maybe infrared, whatever it's designed as, and it goes to the device and it activates it. This is a remote for a fan, and it will switch off the fan, switch on the fan, increase its speed, decrease its speed. This when I do that. If I don't do anything by itself, this remote won't do anything. It's not programmed to suddenly say, oh, at this hour and this minute automatically. It doesn't have a function of a timer. So this remote as itself, to do something like a law, it's not going to change something. It's not going to make my fan work. So physical laws operating in the universe Unless someone says, let this be happen, let this happen, it's not going to happen. Nothing's going to move. Nothing's going to change. The world would not have transformed from its original state to our state. Nothing would have made any transformation. You need an external agency with self-awareness. Well, firstly, existence, self-awareness, volitional will. Unless you have an agent that has these properties, nothing will be transformed. So even if there was a God, if this God was not self-aware and not able to do something, nothing will happen. So you need a God or a creator who's self-aware. If that creator didn't have a will to intend to do something, then nothing will proceed from that creator. Just like if I sit there, I can sit there for millions and billions of years and not intending to do anything. Do you think I will be able to make tea, coffee, food? I will be able to go do anything? Nothing will happen because I'm not intending to do anything to happen, and nothing will happen. So you need not only an existent agency who has no beginning, because the universe needs a creator eventually who will not be limited and who would not be somehow, what we say, contingent, has to be absolutely self-sufficient, eternally existing, with a will, with knowledge, and with the ability. Without ability, nothing will be able to be performed. So the creator would have not only a will to do it, but the power and the ability to do it. So this clearly is a rational way of thinking about this world, in which there has to be an agency which we call the creator or God, who is worthy of worship, with these characteristics and attributes. Atheism knows that this is the case, but they do not want to understand and accept that that's the reality. So now Maya, I have mentioned why there has to be. It's not something, a possibility. This is a necessity. If the world exists today, necessarily there has to be a creator possessing these attributes. Now, you as an atheist should be able to say, no, these are my arguments why it doesn't have to be, and these are the arguments why things can just be as it is. The laws can produce transformation, and so on and so forth. We want to see and hear and look from you, what substance have you got in for your position? Because now your position, atheism, is really under scrutiny. What's the defense that is rational and reasonable? So over to you, Maya. Help us to understand your position better with what I've said so far.
Well, a God that wants animal sacrifice to say thank you, what kind of ridiculous God is that?
Are you done? Okay.
Yes.
Fine. So now we realize, instead of examining what I've said in terms of the necessary existence of such a creator, because you and I now exist, if something exists now, there has to be always something. Okay. You say that's energy of some kind, and some laws just popped up into existence, and I gave you my reasons, intellectual reasons, rational reasons. And instead of dealing with that and saying, but I have these arguments against it, you are coming up with, unfortunately, some emotional reasons of why would God want animal sacrifice. I mean, I could give you reasons why, but that's not the point. You have failed again, my friend, to defend atheism, not your belief, but you're representing atheism. So you're not the right candidate to represent atheism. That's number one point I can say. Secondly, you came up with an emotional response. And what I would say, this is the problem that we are facing in the world today. Instead of people trying to learn about people's belief system and ideologies intellectually on a rational basis, people go and become emotional, and with this emotion they create hatred and intolerance. And that's why we see in the problem all of these issues that are happening, because of this hatred and intolerance, because of emotion coming into play, not realizing that, look, this is not something how we should be divided up between ourselves. We can have differences of opinion, we can still live in peace, and we can still tolerate each other's views in theology, in politics, whatever. But instead, you're coming up with emotions, and emotions, you get charged and you start fighting, like you said, terrorizing. You could be a potential terrorist, for who knows, right? That's the problem, because of emotional approach to reality. Reality needs to be examined, my friend, intellectually, reasonably, rationally. This is where when the Quran says, know, fa'lam annahu la ilaha illallah, know that God, there's none but him to be worshipped. There's no other God besides him. This is not about, Quran says, believe. Quran says, have knowledge of. So the difference, I'm afraid, Maya, between you and the Muslims here, at least in this case, is here we are open-minded with critical mind, critical thinking, and you are somehow lacking that aspect. And I hope in the discussion that we have so far that it will open up for you to really change your position and to be critically thinking and saying, look, why am I emotionally driven? To understand the reality and examine the reality, maybe I need to be critically thinking about my position before I judge someone else's. Is there anything else you have to say before I move on to the next guest?
Sure. First of all, it didn't come out of emotion. It came out of logic. When I said what kind of ridiculous God it is that wants creation to be killed as a thank you gesture. That was not an emotion. I don't have emotion like this. I'm saying this based on logic, based on critical thinking. Something that you are also doing, I agree. Something I am also doing, I agree. I am all for collective peace. I am all for collective progress as humanity because we are one human species. I don't have hate against any Muslim or Hindu or any other religion. What I'm saying is ideologies like this, which have high dogma in them, they promote violence.
Maya, the reason why it says emotional, which you missed, is this. I gave you the reasons why the creator is a necessity. Instead of dealing with my arguments, you came up with something like, why does the God, I mean, let me give you another argument. You could have said, why does your God says you can eat burgers and shawarmas? Yeah, chicken burgers and meat burgers, whatever. Why aren't everyone vegetarian? You could have come up with an argument. You could say, oh, why does God allow suffering the tigers and the lions eating the deers and so on? You could have come up with arguments like that. These will be all what? Emotional argument. So
No, I
all
don't
you're
want
saying,
that,
instead
because I
of
know
Maya,
it's natural,
instead of
nature.
dealing with
It's the
what I
law of
said,
nature, it's science.
Maya,
One needs to
instead
put
of
the other thing
dealing
to
with the
survive.
arguments and the reasons I gave you for the necessity of God existence, you didn't deal with any of these points. Instead, you brought in something like, I don't like football, and God allows you to play football. So that means, how kind of God is that? Do you see the problem? That's nothing to do with logic. It's emotion. So I think we've made enough points here just to show you that, critical thinking, you might think you use it, but reflect on it a bit more and see whether it needs a little bit work. Okay, so thank you for joining us, Maya, and you're more than welcome to come back again after reflection, and we can have another talk. Okay, you take care.